And still on the 2023 general elections, as the general elections draw near, electoral violence and political thuggery have always been an hindrance to entrenchment of people's choice of candidates. In the past, many innocent people of Nigeria have been killed, while several promising youth have been maimed in the course of ensuring that a particular candidate wins the election. Galaxy's correspondent Lebby Joseph takes a look at the scenario in this report.
Elections have been taking place in Nigeria for over 60 years, and almost all the elections have witnessed different degrees of violence. In 1964 election, more than 200 lives were snuffed out. The deadly post-election violence in the southwest in 1983, also several lives and properties were destroyed. Even the good record of 1993 election, which was widely adjudged freest, was completely negated with the annulment by the Ibrahim Badamasi-led military administration.
Those who want to serve are not supposed to be violent. It is not supposed to be by force, by fire. So it is very, very ridiculous, and it's not going to help our democracy if it will grow at all. So that is anti-democratic, an approach because one of the, apart from the basic of saying democracy, government of people, etc., it is democracy in itself. It is meant to allow cross-fertilization of ideas. So when you don't allow people to say their own, that is not a democracy in any way.
Democracy is a journey, and that in that journey, the only way we'll get to wherever will be our destination at any point in time is about carrying ourselves along with the intent of peace, the intent of integrity, the intent, of course, of serving not just our interests, advancing not just our interests, but of course the collective interest.
There is no doubt that weak governance, poverty and unemployment, abuse of power, including compromised security forces, are factors for thriving electoral violence in Nigeria. Over the time, no political thug has been convicted for electoral violence, and measures put in place by Independent National Electoral Commission to discourage violence, intimidation and malpractices were not effective.
Elites and responsible people find it difficult to vote. So when they scare people away from the polling booth, and responsible people doesn't want to take stone to their head, so they will go home, as a result of which the hoodlums, the charlatans will have field day, so they will be able to do what they like, change figures of the elections, bribe the electoral officers, compromise the security system, and impose themselves.
The campaigns should be about issues, about programs of parties, should be shown of the sentiments of any sort. So if we're talking to ourselves, we should be talking about what we want to do for Nigerians.
There is no doubt that election is the only acceptable means of entrenching legitimate government through sovereign will of the people at the polls, and once it is flawed, it will result to anarchy and violence.
If anybody involved in the electoral act, such as particularly in electoral violence to say, if anybody involved in it, I expect the law enforcement agents to swing into action with a view to arrest, investigate and prosecute such a person. Then, and if possible, secure conviction that will serve as deterrent to others.
Our own kind of democracy seems to be so funny, because we have violence. We cannot call it a democracy per se. It is a traces of dictatorial tendency, democratic dictatorship. That is what it will amount to. Because those who encourages that violence, those who want to rule by fire for force, they are not likely to listen to others.
Election management bodies need to adopt an electoral system that will drastically reduce congregation of people at voting centers, and disciplinary measures must be total and decisive for electoral offenders.
How violent or violent-free an election is dependent on how willing the political players are to ensure that we have an election that is free. The politicians are the key stakeholders, once there is a consensus and the willingness and the sincerity of purpose to ensure that elections are free, then there will be an election that is, or a series of elections that will be devoid of violence.
Yes, we must continue to engage everybody in the political space at the level of leadership, political leadership, and of course at the level of political membership. I mean, members, followers, as it were. And of course, continue to enlighten politicians. And when I say politicians, I'm not just talking about office holders, I'm talking about grassroots politicians.
It is pertinent for government to make frantic effort to institutionalize and consolidate democracy in the country by embarking on various electoral reforms, which is the only sure way for the people to enjoy perfect and enduring dividend of democracy.